Takeoff's death set off an outpouring of grief around Atlanta and in the larger hip-hop community. Atlanta's services are planned for Friday for Migos rapper Takeoff at State Farm Arena. The artist was shot and killed last week at a Houston bowling alley, in an incident that authorities there continue to investigate, with no named suspects and little information about the exact moments in which Takeoff was shot. His death set off an outpouring of grief around Atlanta and in the larger hip-hop community, which has remembered the 28-year-old as a creative genius and gift lyricist, who was poised for big things beyond his run with the iconic rap trio Migos. The services are set to be held at State Farm Arena on Friday, November 11th, at noon, with doors opening at 11 a.m. They will be overseen by Lilburn's New Mercies Church and Senior Pastor Rev. Jesse Kearney III. According to the arena in downtown Atlanta, tickets were made available at 2 p.m. on Tuesday. On Wednesday at noon, the arena said tickets were sold out, and that capacity for the event was reached. Those who bought a ticket must be Georgia residents, and they were free of charge. Organizers said you could only get 2 tickets. Those who wished to pay their respects could get tickets at Ticketmaster. The public memorial will follow a strict no photo and no video policy, they said. All devices will be checked with yonder bags before entering the arena. Additionally, the arena said that fans who were not able to secure tickets are strongly encouraged to not come downtown. No gifts or items will be permitted to be left at or near the venue. Laurel from The Morning Hustle, a nationally syndicated radio program on Atlanta's Hot 107.9, told 11 Alive's John Shurek last week that everyone is extremely devastated at Takeoff's passing. Migos literally shaped and changed the sound of hip-hop music, Laurel said. Takeoff was such an important part of the group. I mean, one-third, of the biggest group that, up to date, we've seen in my lifetime. She struggled to find the words, in her grief. I can't even imagine. The family asks that in lieu of flowers or gifts that donations should be made to the Rocket Foundation, which was recently established to support programs which are saving lives through proven, community-based solutions to prevent gun violence. Funeral proceedings for the late rapper, Takeoff, began at 12 p.m. Eastern Time Friday, as fans and loved ones gathered for the celebration of life for Takeoff. The service is being held in State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. The Migos member grew up in the city of Lawrenceville, located roughly 30 miles west of the Georgia capital. Tickets to the event were open to Georgia residents but quickly sold out. Takeoff, his real name is Kurznik Karibol, was fatally shot last week outside a private party hosted at a Houston bowling alley. The 28-year-old was shot on November 1st around 2:30 a.m., and police had declared one person deceased when they arrived at the scene. 2 other victims in the incident were also taken to nearby hospitals, with non-life-threatening injuries, police said. Thousands lined up in the rain on a dreary day in Atlanta to pay their respects to the rapper, some equipped with signs that said, "Stop the violence." Takeoff's record label, which also represents his group Migos, issued a statement on the day following the shooting, saying that the rapper had been killed by a stray bullet. "Senseless violence and a stray bullet has taken another life from this world, and we are devastated," the record company wrote in their statement. Migos, which reached 4 Billboard Hot 100 Top 10 entries during their career as a group, is made up of Takeoff, his uncle Quavo, and Quavo's cousin, Offset. The Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences in Houston found in their autopsy that Takeoff had died from gunshot wounds to the head and torso. Houston police are still looking to speak with people who attended the private party at 810 Billiards and Bowling last week, Police Chief Troy Finner said at a press conference last week. Finner added that Takeoff was well respected, and that the police had no reason to believe he was involved in anything criminal at the time of the shooting. Takeoff's death was called a freak accident by rapper 21 Savage, who said in an interview on the Off the Record with DJ Kadimic's podcast that the incident will impact the rest of his life. During the podcast, 21 Savage said that Takeoff was not confrontational, and that he was really quiet unless he knows you. The Grammy-winning rapper added that Takeoff's sudden death was an eye-opener for himself and for others. Krishna Karibol, better known in the music industry by his stage name Takeoff, was a part of this cool hip-hop trio called Migos, with partners Quavo and Offset. Takeoff was known for his crazy beats, and could produce groovy music out of thin air. He was extremely talented and a versatile performer sporting the genre-appropriate looks with colored glasses and lots of bling. His musical journey was quite eventful, with him belting out one popular hip-hop number after another. Since the start of his music career in 2009, when he started the group, he created singles and subsequently mixtapes. The breakthrough did not come until 2013, and after that his popularity went uphill only. Takeoff had a huge fan following, and this is evident from his social media handles. Over the course of his career, he created a huge brand value which led to collaborations with big names of the music industry. Takeoff was shot dead in Houston, Texas, on November 1, 2022. While growing up as a child, Kurznik was always drawn to music. He started belting out cool beats and often developed unique rhythms starting from 7th grade. Friends and family realized that he had a natural talent, as he performed in gatherings or at school in random performances, but at that point, he did not realize that he would pursue music as a career. In 2009, he was approached by his uncle, Quavius Keate Marshall, and his cousin Kiari Kendrell Cephas, who were greatly impressed by his raw talent, to form this hip-hop trio. Bull agreed and the three of them started the group Polo Club. The three of them even adopted stage names. Quavius became Quavo, Kiari became Offset, and Krishna took on the name Takeoff. The trio made odd stage appearances around Georgia and created mediocre music. Takeoff still did not take the music thing very seriously. The other two members eventually sat down with him, brought his attention to his talent, and what possibilities the future might hold if they find success. This acted as a wake-up call for Takeoff, and he seriously concentrated on creating quality music with his team. Finally, in August 2011, Polo Club released their first full-length project, a mix-up by the title Juke Season. They followed this up with another mix-up in 2012 in June 2012. During this time they changed the group's name to Migos. Fame finally knocked on Takeoff's doors when in 2013 Migos' single titled Versace went viral. The song made rounds of the music circuit, and ended up at number 99 of the US Billboard Hot 100 chart. The song was even remixed by Canadian rapper Drake, and later that year he performed it at the 2013 iHeartRadio Music Festival. In the wake of the popularity of their first hit single, Migos released their mix-up YRN. The Young Rich Niggas and featured Versace as the lead single. The album received much critical acclaim, getting 8 out of 10 from Brandon Soderbergh of Spin magazine. They started performing with premier platforms, including Hot 109.7 radio station's Birthday Bash. Verzake and YRN. Featured in a number of noteworthy publications in the hip-hop category of 2013 by the end of the year, including Spin magazine, Rolling Stone and Pitchfork. In 2015, Takeoff along with his group mates released Migos' fourth project, and the first full-fledged album Young Rich Nation. The album featured guest appearances by big names like Chris Brown and Young Thug. The album sold 150,000 copies in the first week alone, and got third position in the top rap album charts. In 2016, Takeoff along with Migos, was set to sign a lucrative contract with Good Music imprint, mediated by Kanye West himself, but as of 2017, the deal has not been finalized. In 2016, Migos achieved their first #1 single, Bad and Bougie, from their second album, and it featured the voice of rapper Lil Uzi Vert. The song went straight on top of the Billboard Hot 100, making it Takeoff's first chart topper in the US. The music video of the song received over 1.1 billion views in the trio's YouTube channel. The song was certified 4-time platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America, RIAA. Migos' second studio album, Culture, came out in January 2017, debuting at #1 on the US Billboard 200. It sold more than 44,000 copies during the first week of its release. It was certified platinum in America by July 2017. Migos' second album, Culture 2, was released in January 2018, and it became the group's second album to debut at #1 on the Billboard 200. It sold 38,000 copies in its first week. During a news conference on Wednesday morning, Houston Police Chief Troy Finner had few updates about rapper Takeoff's death the night before in a downtown bowling alley. But after confirming the rapper's identity, Krishna Bull, and the fact his suspect had not been arrested, he did have something to say. Speaking to a crowd of reporters in the room and the millions of fans Takeoff and his group Migos had amassed, Finner cautioned the public about demonizing the hip-hop community, following the loss of one of the genre's most famous names in the last decade. Sometimes the hip-hop community gets a bad name, and I know a lot of great people in our hip-hop community, and I respect them, he said. We all need to stand together and make sure nobody tears down that industry. The choice to stress that point is tied up in the perception of hip-hop, and an ongoing issue that seems to perpetually dog the genre, the premature deaths of some of its most promising artists. Rapper Takeoff, from Grammy-nominated trio Migos, shot to death in Houston, but as Finner also stressed, there was no indication Takeoff himself was at all involved in criminal activity, and was more than likely just an innocent bystander caught by violence swirling around him. Alongside that, a fraught debate has emerged about the cost of authenticity in the hip-hop community, where artists might feel pressure to live up to the lifestyle they describe in their music. Others say the genre is unfairly scapegoated, and that violent lyrics don't translate into real-world violence. After news broke of Takeoff's death on Tuesday, the music community mourned the 28-year-old artist who, as a member of the rap trio Migos, pioneered a new sound in rap and hip-hop. But while fans expressed sorrow at Takeoff's passing, the level of surprise is unique to the world of hip-hop. While the death of celebrities at the top of other genres, like Drake or Taylor Swift, would be extraordinarily unexpected, this year 7 rappers have been killed, giving fans a rubric of how to react when one of biggest hip-hop stars is killed. Migos' impact on hip-hop and culture at large is impossible to ignore, and far exceeded expectations from their beginnings. They're like the Beatles for the rap world, Toronto rapper Pressa told CBC News, referencing how they influenced both the music industry and pop culture. Though Versace didn't make it high on the charts when it was released in 2013, peaking at 99 on Billboard's Hot 100, it proliferated in Atlanta clubs, and eventually reached international fame, when Drake added an additional verse. All the while, frontman Quavo and Offset, one half of a power couple with fellow musician Cardi B, drew most of the audience's attention. The quieter and youngest member, Takeoff, meanwhile, seemed to take a backseat in interviews and performances. But in reality, he was the one who largely drove their creative process, and whose mastery of their triplet flow initially drew the attention of Kevin, Coach K, Lee and Pierre P. Thomas, co-founders of Migos management company and label Quality Control. The Migos is their own thing, said Pressa. You know, they had their own culture. They had their own sound. And I feel like a lot of people take their sound and kind of incorporate it. The fact that it was the more reserved Takeoff that was killed seemed to underscore the danger that some hip-hop artists face, even if their lifestyle is free from violence. But the perception of the group has previously parted ways with its nature going back to the beginning of their careers. The men behind Migos were often plagued by criticism for seeming dishonesty in their music. As music journalist and poet Hanif Abdurraqib wrote in a 2017 piece for the National Post, some fans took issue with the fact that the three members, who grew up in a suburban area outside of Atlanta, would rap about drugs and crime. That sentiment, Abdurraqib argued, pushed them to engage in behavior more in line with their music, such as when Offset was arrested in 2015, then attacked a fellow inmate in custody. Like Johnny Cash in the middle of the 60s, they spent time getting too close to the fire, he wrote. It is hard to build a myth so large without eventually becoming part of it. And in hip-hop is genre that puts a premium on authenticity and self-documentation in a way few other art forms do. They are far from the only group to be touched by violence. Since 2018, more than a dozen high-profile rap artists have been shot and killed. Among them are Los Angeles rapper Nipsey Hussle, who was shot outside of his clothing store in 2019, though he was most known for his community building, general kindness and poetic, heartfelt lyrics. A year later, Toronto rapper Houdini was killed while shopping, Memphis-based Young Dolph was killed while buying cookies in 2021, and PNB Rock, real name Rakim Hashi Malin, was murdered this year while eating lunch with his girlfriend at a small Los Angeles restaurant, in an unprovoked robbery, after a stranger apparently saw his location in a social media post the rapper made. After praising Allen as being a pleasure to work with, rapper Nicki Minaj implored other artists in his honor to stop making themselves so available to their community. "You're not loved like you think you are," she wrote. "You prey. In a world full of predators. What's not clicking? It's just dangerous as an artist out there," Pressa agreed, who said he was with Migos member Offset at a separate event the night the shooting took place. "I don't like broadcasting and telling my followers where I'm going, and that's just what it is." But discussions around the causes of these incidents aren't simple. A.R. Shaw, an Atlanta-based trap music historian who wrote a book called Trap History, told CBC News that gun violence trickles down to communities of color, because it's a broader issue in the rest of North America. "I want to kind of get that notion out there that it just didn't happen overnight, that these are years of neglected communities and abuse that has occurred in communities of color, particularly, and this is the repercussions of that," said Shaw. "We've seen this pervasive violence that's occurring among artists and within the hip-hop community," Shaw added. "But it's also indicative of what's happening in communities nationwide. Gun violence has generally been on the rise in Canada and the United States. Between 2018 and 2019, the criminal use of firearms increased by 21% in this country, according to Statistics Canada." Shaw said that the issue of gun violence began many years before rap and hip-hop emerged as cultural forces. Where some would see violent messaging in some rap and hip-hop subgenres as further fueling violent behavior, Shaw said it is often a documentation of and a way of working through the effects of long-standing trauma in those communities. "Rapping about crime and violence isn't causing the problem," he said, "it's identifying it. Hopefully we can change the narrative, but we have to understand what the source is first." On the other hand, some in the hip-hop world do see it differently. Kiana Rooks Eastman, a Toronto music executive and former rapper, said that while rap has evolved as an outlet to deal with that trauma, as a genre, it also pushes its artists to perennially focus on hardship. Other genres allow artists speaking about their lives to move on. "We want to see them, grow and evolve into a space where they don't have to share their trauma or where they're not defined by it. We don't ask for that from rappers," she said. "We don't ask them to ever find peace. We don't ask them to ever move on." Likening it to the NFL, which for years ignored the damage concussions do before eventually bowing to public pressure and altering the game to protect athletes, she said the same thing should happen for hip-hop. Instead of demanding that rappers spend their careers mining the most traumatic moments in their lives, and then rewarding them for it, both the industry and fans should set a higher standard and demand music that demonstrates growth in the genre. Artists are people. And I think that in the same way that we expect our stories to be humanized in black culture everywhere else, we need to expect that from hip-hop now, she said. We need to expect it from rap. Beloved Migos rapper Takeoff was shot and killed on November 1st in a shocking incident at a bowling alley in Houston. The Atlanta performer, whose name was Keke, was only 28 years old. On Friday, devastated family, friends and fans gathered at Atlanta's State Farm Arena, which has a capacity of 21,000 people, for a celebration of his life. The event had a strict no photo, no video policy inside the venue. Thousands of tickets were given out to members of the public to attend and pay tribute to Takeoff's life, and the arena was full of thousands of white roses, as well as photos and artworks of Takeoff. Quavo, Takeoff's uncle and one of the Migos trio, paid tribute to his nephew in an emotional speech. "You always with me, and we did everything together," he said. "Since we was kids, you've been by my side looking up at me with them eyes, same eyes you've got as my sister." Quavo, who was with Takeoff on the night he died, was only 3 years older than his nephew. He spoke about what it was like growing up together. "Waiting on me to make the next move and then you followed up right behind me," said Quavo. "You always made sure I did it first, so you could do it right with me." Quavo said the pair's first dream wasn't music, it was to be tag team wrestling partners in the WWE. He spoke about how they'd always worked together. "You never competed with me," said Quavo in his speech on Friday. "We were always on the same team, because you hated playing against me, because I always played too hard or too rough." On Saturday, Quavo posted his full speech on Instagram. In it, he called Takeoff the funniest and the quietest person in the room. He said that uncle and nephew had always felt like a funny way to describe their relationship. "Now I finally get it. You are Angel," he wrote. The third member of Migos, Offset, also spoke at the funeral on Friday, which fans found particularly touching because Offset had had a falling out with Takeoff and Quavo earlier this year. Both Offset and his wife, Cardi B, had unfollowed Takeoff and Quavo on social media. "Change the culture of music forever," said Offset, pointing directly at Takeoff's casket, surrounded by flowers. "You did that, Take, you changed that flow came from Take, the originator. The originator of that flow, he changed the music." The emotion clear in his voice, Offset spoke about how he couldn't comprehend why Takeoff had died. "Lord, give us the strength, just give me, the family, everybody, give us the strength," he said. "I don't want to question you, God, but I don't get it. I don't get you sometimes." After the funeral, Cardi B posted a heartbreaking tribute on Instagram for Takeoff, showing photos of him along with his rapping. "Takeoff, your untimely passing has brought a great deal of pain and sorrow to so many lives," she wrote. "The impact you had in this world was so considerable and we have struggled to grasp this tragedy. I am heartbroken, but I am grateful for all the precious memories we got to share while you were here with us. This has truly been a nightmare, and the pain is incomparable," continued Cardi. "The emptiness your brothers are feeling is unbearable, and I pray that you give Offset, Quavo, and your friends and family the strength to keep going, as they are trying to cope with this loss." Canadian rapper Drake also spoke at Takeoff's celebration, saying that when the young rapper would take off his sunglasses and reveal his big eyes, that no matter what was going on around us, he was always kind of squinting, but his eyes were wide open. Chloe Bailey, of Chloe X Halle, sung Beyonce's 2013 ballad Heaven. The chorus of the song contains the devastating lyrics, "Heaven couldn't wait for you, so go on, go home." Chloe performs onstage during the 2022 BET Awards at Microsoft Theater on June 26, 2022, in Los Angeles, California. Justin Bieber also performed an acoustic version of his song Ghost. In lieu of gifts, Takeoff's family asked for donations to the Rocket Foundation, an organization aimed at preventing gun violence. Spectators attend the celebration of life for Takeoff of Migos at State Farm Arena on November 11, 2022, in Atlanta, Georgia. Late Migos rapper Takeoff's funeral is set for this coming Friday, and much like his career, the homegoing will be big going down at State Farm Arena in Atlanta. The venue, which is home to the NBA's Atlanta Hawks, has the capacity to host more than 20,000 people. Rev. Jesse Kearney, 3 of New Mercy's Christian Church, will be officiating the services, which will begin at 1 p.m. In a statement, Rev. Kearney said, "I was really sad to hear the news. Kersnick has been a faithful member since he was 10 years old. He and his family were active and avid supporters of the church and the community as a whole. Emotions in the city have been heavy since Takeoff was shot on November 1st in Houston." Graffiti artist Armando Ape Monletti crafted a mural in Atlanta, just hours after the tragic news, and friends and fam of Takeoff held a balloon send-off over the weekend in his honor. Law enforcement sources recently told TMZ they're vigorously investigating the argument that led to the 28-year-old rapper's death, but haven't pinpointed any suspect just yet. Quavo was with Takeoff at the time of the shooting. Pictures show him kneeling over his nephew after he was shot during what police said was a fight that broke out after a private party. Police said they don't believe Takeoff was directly involved in the fight. No arrests have been made in the rapper's shooting death. The funeral service is scheduled for 12 p.m. It is unclear if it will be open to the public. Takeoff, who was one-third of the platinum-selling rap group Migos, was shot and killed early Tuesday in Houston, Texas, a source close to the group confirmed to CNN. He was 28. Police received a call of a shooting in progress around 2:34 p.m. local time, Houston Police Department Chief Troy Finner said at a news conference Tuesday. Officers arrived to the 810 Billiards and Bowling Houston where there was a private party, and found a dead man at the scene. Tributes have begun pouring in for late rapper Takeoff, seen here at the 107.9 birthday bash 25 at Georgia State University on July 17, 2021 in Atlanta, Georgia. Darrell, Keke Palmer and more stars paid tribute to Takeoff. Two other people, a 23-year-old man and 24-year-old woman, were also injured in the shooting, and took themselves to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries, said Sergeant Michael Arrington, with Police Department's Homicide Division. Employees told police an argument took place after the party ended when a large group of people gathered at the front door area outside of the building, which led to the shooting. At least 40 people were at the scene at the time of the shooting, Finner said. A lot of people that were there fled the scene and did not stick around to give a statement, Arrington said. Finner identified the deceased man as Krishna Karibol, also known as Takeoff of the rap group Migos. I got many calls from Houston and outside of Houston, and everyone spoke of what a great young man he is, how peaceful he is, what a great artist he is, Finner said, later adding that Takeoff was very well respected and nonviolent. I would not expect him to be involved. We have no reason to believe that he was involved in anything criminal at the time, Finner said. Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner said they have met with Takeoff's mother. It doesn't matter how famous you are. You may not be famous at all, Turner said. Anybody who loses his or her life is a life lost, and there are family members and friends who are grieving as a result. Adrian Florido, host. And finally today, soundbite of song, 2 Infinity Links, Quavo and Takeoff. Rapping, counted me out, but you know I'll win. You know that. Why question the S that I did? Why? You know I had visions of this S since I was a kid. Real talk. Florido. The rapper known as Takeoff died earlier this week, killed in a shooting outside a Houston bowling alley. His record label said it was a stray bullet. Officials are still investigating, but the 28-year-old singer's death has left the hip-hop world in mourning. Takeoff was a member of the rap group Migos, and their innovations in the genre made them hip-hop superstars. Their style became so influential over the last decade it was dubbed the Migos flow. Soundbite of song, T-shirt, Migos. Rapping, neck water faucet, water, mockingbirds mocking woo. Act pint, stocking act nats keep thoughting nats. Wrist on hockey hockey wrist on rocky rocky. Lot of copy. Name someone can stop me no one. Florido. Takeoff rose to fame as a young artist, and he had his sights on the future. Here's a bit of him in 2018 talking with Complex magazine. Soundbite of archived recording, Takeoff. I want longevity. I want to stay consistent. I want to be 18 years, 20 years later, you still know my music's still going to live on, PH. Unidentified person. Yeah. Takeoff. And you still remember me and still remember all the work we put in. Florido. To tell us more about Takeoff and the legacy he leaves behind, we're joined by NPR hip-hop staff writer Rodney Carmichael. He also hosts the NPR podcast Louder Than Air. Rodney, welcome. Rodney Carmichael, byline. Hey. Thanks so much for having me. Florido. Rodney, Takeoff reached international acclaim as part of Migos, but the group came out of the Atlanta rap scene. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how Migos got its start? Carmichael. Yeah. I mean, Migos basically started as a family trio, you know, and it was actually Takeoff who convinced his uncle Quavo to start rapping with him. And, you know, eventually Quavo's cousin Offset joined the two of them, and they got discovered by Gucci Mane. They eventually become the first act to get signed to Quality Control, which has now grown into a really powerhouse label in Atlanta at the same time that Migos has grown into a powerhouse group. And they went on to really change the sound of rap. I mean, their song Versace, it's an early hit that breaks big in 2013. And, you know, this was really the era when Atlanta rappers were being denounced as mumble rap. But, you know, Migos' flow was full of triplets, which basically meant they were rhyming in double time, and squeezing in even more syllables into every beat. Soundbite of song, Versace, Migos. Rapping, cooking the dope like I work at Hibachi. Looking and watching, blow it, hot like some taki. Come in my room, my sheet Versace. When I go to sleep, I dream Versace. Medusa, Medusa, Medusa. Carmichael. You got to be pretty nimble to pull it off. It's like the antithesis of mumble rap. Florido. But more recently, Migos split up, and Quavo and Takeoff decided to produce music on their own. Carmichael. Yeah. They billed themselves as Uncle Few, you know, like short for nephew. Florido. And uncle. Carmichael. Yeah, since Takeoff really was Quavo's nephew. Florido. Right before his death, Takeoff released an album with Quavo titled, Only Built for Infinity Links. What elements of that album got you really excited for this next chapter in Takeoff's career? Carmichael. I mean, I think the strength of the album, one of the strengths is that it really gives Takeoff room to shine. See, Takeoff, he was always really the quiet member of Migos, the least flashy of the crew. You know, if Quavo had the melodic hooks and the charisma on lock and Offset, he had the slick dance moves, and a wife named Cardi B, Takeoff was always the one who was, you know, laying in the cut. But something about that consistency really helped him emerge as like, the best lyricist in the group over time. And he was finally at the point where he was starting to get credit or get the credit he deserved, and really, he was coming into his own. Florido. Migos was known for producing a lot of party starters, but this lyricism in Takeoff's raps that you were talking about could also be really introspective. Let's listen to some of the song, Nothing Changed off of Takeoff and Quavo's most recent album. Soundbite of song, Nothing Changed, Quavo and Takeoff. Rapping, no Letterman, I've been a veteran. Do anything for a name, anything. When you start getting a little change, watch how your partners and everything change. And when you step foot in that field, make sure you're strapped and make sure you got aim. My end, they shooting to live. I seen some men, they shooting for fame. Florido. Takeoff, they're exploring the challenges of dealing with wealth and fame in a pretty introspective way. Would you say that these kinds of lyrics really set him apart? Carmichael. I mean, I think a lot of things set Takeoff apart within the group. You know, he was the youngest member. Even though all three members were always totally blinged out and known for dressing in these flamboyant, over-the-top Versace shirts and whatnot, there's something about Takeoff always set working class. You know, his heart was still with the streets. And even though Migos reached the high aspirations that they early started off rapping about, Takeoff, he still really rapped first and foremost for the trap boys, trapping out the bando, which is how and where they started from. Florido. Rodney, you know, fans of hip-hop have lost, you know, several high-profile artists in the last couple of years, people who were really in their prime, people who were innovating. What is the impact of these deaths on fans and on the music? Carmichael. Well, first off, you know, these are just tremendously sad losses. And, you know, as fans, we heard from them. But in terms of what you're speaking about, another loss that hip-hop is feeling is kind of an unknown loss, because a lot of these artists are young innovators, people who are changing the sound of rap. We really have no idea of the impact of their loss in terms of how the genre itself might have, you know, evolved or been revolutionized by their art, you know, and by their contributions to the culture. Soundbite of song, 2 Infinity Links, Quavo and Takeoff. Rapping, out of my mind try. Then I go ride with the boogers in the booger, first time that I couldn't tell the time ice. And it got so damn hot, had to move the spot, the north side try. If it was you, you could never be me nah. I'm the first one that said QC. Chill out Carmichael. So that part is the thing that is the hardest cost to count in terms of rap music, and where it might go from here. Florido. So what's Takeoff's legacy? Carmichael. I mean, I think his legacy is he started the greatest rap group of the last decade, in an era when rap groups, which, you know, had once been the foundation of hip-hop, were really almost non-existent in the industry. And his superpower was staying true to himself, changing the game and staying 10 toes down with his family to the very end. Soundbite of song, Nothing Changed, Quavo and Takeoff. Rapping, foreign exchange the chain. Fame came with the change. Did a strike for a stain. You bout to crash out your lane. The umbrella out of the Rolls-Royce Cullinan, no it came with the rain. No Letterman, I've been a veteran, do anything for a name, anything. Florido. That was NPR Music's Rodney Carmichael talking to us about the recent death of the rapper Takeoff. Rodney, thanks so much for speaking with us. Carmichael, thanks for having me Adrian. Soundbite of song, Nothing Changed, Quavo and Takeoff. Rapping, to see my grandma, just to see my kinpika. Inaudible, can't he lull the pain, no cap. I get you knocked off of earth. You play with my body, you play with my name. I wet him up like he surf. It be looking strange. I pop at his brain. Don't play with me. I'm rocking a watch with no diamonds in it. It cost me a ticket. It's plain. I put baguettes in the Patek. What time is it? And it cost me rolls insane. I don't post pics with sticks and S. That's how them boys get framed. I've been the same since a jit, little, inaudible. When they see me they say don't nothing change but the chains. We on your head like a bang, all double RS, no range.